Okay.
Would you identify yourself as Black American or African American?
I would say African American. I was adopted from South Africa by a white family, and then we lived there for 7 years, and then we moved to the States. So I have citizenship in both countries, so I think, yeah, that qualifies as African American.
I think I'd identify myself as a Black American, mainly because um, how I see is that like someone that's African American knows like more specific stuff about like their roots. Well, if someone were like world, well, if someone were to ask me something like where are your ancestors from, I could just say like Africa, but I couldn't really like specify like where.
Black American, because I feel like African American is for more of those who came directly from Africa and came to America, and Black American is like if you have people from Africa in your bloodline, but they're like your ancestors, so you appear to have the same skin color, but you're not like actually African American.
I would identify myself as Black American because a lot of my relatives around my family they were born in Atlanta and Pittsburgh, North Carolina, and uh, they haven't like told many stories of people who came from Africa. So I can like only presume that they've like were born there and like lived there like even later on before even they themselves were born.
I am Black American.
African Americans.
What cultural background / influences affect your daily life?
I think that's a little bit different. I am like obviously like an African American, but because I was adopted into a white American family and then, moved to the States after like 7 years, I don't necessarily have a lot of like cultural influences that affect me. I have cultural experiences, but if I was to like pinpoint one, I would just say like equality is something that I find very important, specifically in South Africa. In the time that I was born in 1999, we were just coming out of like apartheid, and so there's this big push and also emphasis on like equality in the country, and so I think that like that aspect of South African culture has affected me. And even though it's not lived out as much as it should be in South Africa, I think that I find it important in my daily life to treat people equally, no matter, the background, skin color, anything like that. I'm a huge advocate.
Um, the two most prominent are probably church, like getting up every Sunday, going to church, listening to gospel music about 3 hours, dressing up, just kind of that stuff.
African culture and Native American culture both equally affect my life because my mother is Native American and my father is African American, or Black American rather. And as you can see, we like have these elephants and like these plates, everything that show our African American side, if you will. And then over my living room, we have more of those that show our Native American side.
Yes, because there's a way that people dress and talk and how they do things around America. Like if you see a white person and a black person, they from the same place, but they might act different.
Quality.
Do you think there is a Black culture in America?
Definitely. I think when you have people that don't necessarily have ties to an African country, that they've just created a culture within like their own community, and it goes beyond the stereotypes that people like to put on Black Americans. um and it truly is a culture, and a lot of people, I feel like, try to negate it and just say that like, oh well, it's just being loud or like dancing or like eating fried chicken or Kool-Aid, but it goes so much more beyond that. It affects their daily life, their mentalities, the choices that they make, in their futures and stuff like that. And so I think that to just try to minimize it to a stereotype that is withheld in Black Americans is irresponsible.
Yes, I believe there is Black culture in America. Um, like some examples is our music. We got just just jazz, hip hop, rap, R&B. We got our dances. We got like the little viral videos, the little shoot, the little nene. You know, that stuff was invented by Black people. And although it was appropriated by the white culture, we still did make that. We got our hairstyles. Natural. We got, I be wearing my afro. I know y'all be seeing me wear my afro down the hallway, but whatever. We got Bantu knots, cornrows. We got, oh, we got some foods too. Yes, we do. We got soul food. Oh my gosh.
I definitely think there's a Black culture in America. I think there's something to be said of people coming together in times of oppression that bring out characteristics and activities and words and music that bring people together and unite them. I think hip hop, jazz, blues are all good examples in music of cultural experiences through Black people. So hip hop and jazz and blues, like I said, are all things that are expressive to the time. If you listen to certain music, you can feel and pull what was going on in the time. And I think there's needs to be respect for the things that are in Black culture because it honestly comes from a place of hardship.
Yes, I do. There's definitely one. You can see it through music and how people interact with each other and like the style of clothes maybe sometimes, and it's like noticeable, and maybe even like how people speak and how they say things differently. There's definitely a Black culture.
What is your response, and how does it make you feel when asked what ethnicity you are?
My response is that I am Nigerian. It's in like the middle of Africa, and the way it makes me feel is like when somebody says, like, when they ask me about ethnicity and I tell them, and they're like, can you speak African, kind of annoys me because like you can't speak African. It's like different types of language. Like if you live in like Latin or something, like you speak a certain language, you don't say, can you speak Latin? Or, I mean, yes, you can, but like, yeah.
My response is pretty much every time that I'm not sure, because I don't really know, besides where my grandparents and great-grandparents came from, like Pittsburgh, great-grandfather, my dad's side came from North Carolina. Not sure. Oh, my great-grandmother, she's from Atlanta, and she had 10 children, so it's the Atlanta area, that's pretty much where it is. And when people ask me, I just brush it off. It's just something that like they're trying to learn because.
When I'm asked what ethnicity I am, it makes me feel different because I didn't get the experience to have my ancestors come over on Ellis Island, and actually I got my ancestors enslaved and brought over here in big ships by the masses with no record of where they're from. So it makes me feel very different because I can't answer the question. And in fact, the only part of me that I know exactly where I'm from is that I'm Polish. So I think it's frustrating that the only roots that I can trace back and the only ancestors that I have knowledge of are the ones of white descent. And that's sometimes troubling to me because when I'm asked a question and I don't know, I feel very different. I feel like other people know, oh, I'm 5% this or 10% this, and I don't know anything about my past, and that's because of poor records in the time of slavery.
How do you respond when asked what ethnicity you are, and how does it make you feel?
With me being half Nigerian and half Black, I just tell people, I tell them that I'm half Nigerian because, of course, you know, I'm Black. They can tell. So that's giving them a little, like, you know, a little out there, like, okay, a little more into my culture that I know about. But my dad knows how to speak my language. He didn't really teach me. You know, I wear Nigerian clothes and everything, but personally, I levitate more to the Black side.
Do you see a difference between those two?
I think that African Americans, because they have cultural ties to a specific country, there's more of a definitive culture that they can identify with. But Black African Americans or Black Americans, unfortunately, don't have that like connection to a specific country, and so it's not like their fault or anything like that, but they don't necessarily have that cultural reference or background that is as strong as with African Americans.
Okay, so I feel like Black American, like, okay, so when I think of Black American, I think of like Malcolm X, I think of MLK, I think of like a group that's in America, but they don't have like known ties to Africa. Like African Americans, like, okay, so me, I'm half Nigerian and then I'm Black American. So my mom is a group that can't really find her roots in Africa. My dad, like, I consider him African American because he knows where he came from, which is Nigeria. He can literally point and be like, there, you know, he knows his whole like tradition, background, he knows all the culture. So that's the difference.
Yes, because the way that African Americans live and what they wear is different from people that live in like America, and the way like they get married, the way that they dress, the way how like they cook their food is completely different.